Hey guys, it's Rebecca Oberstadt. So I've got the new, well, it's new to me, the BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil palette, and I've seen like one or two videos comparing it to the James Charles palette. And since I just recorded swatches of this palette on this arm, I figured why not swatch this one on my other arm and try and do like comparisons to see what would be similar to the Take Me Back to Brazil palette. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and swatch this on my other arm, and then I will do comparisons. Now, not all of these shades are going to be the same from one palette to the other. Like this palette has a lot more neutrals, but I figured I would try and compare some of the other shades in here. Those two shades definitely look similar to the other ones. Downside to using your pinky to swatch is not only the swatch is not big enough, but you don't have a whole lot of pressure. And these are the first two rows done. Now I think this is where we're going to find a lot more like of the similar colors because of the fact that these are more of the vibrant shades. I just hope I have enough arm room. I'm running out of room. And there is the entire palette swatched on one arm. Now to compare this to these. Before I do comparison swatches, I want to see if you guys can see like all of the shadows and stuff that like crumbled in the pan while I was swatching it. Even like the shadows like on the counters. Look at all of this. Now I gotta clean my counters all over again. But all of this is like shadow that fell off my fingers or out of the palette while I was pulling color for swatches. Okay, so when I first got the James Charles palette, I thought it would be really good to use for a bunch of different variety of looks, and quite a few of the shades I have a difficult time working with. And I've wanted this one here for a while to take me back to Brazil, but I thought that this palette would be about this size or maybe a little bit smaller than this. I was shocked at how tiny that was, because this reminds me of some of their other like multi-colored palettes that really aren't that great. This is one of their 99 color shadow palettes, and they don't make this one anymore, or they're not selling it anymore. But if you see how tiny those are compared to the other ones, I also have the 120 color one, which are this size. And these shadows, they all look about the same when you put them on their eyes. And this is very reminiscent of Chinese AliExpress kind of private label makeup that's very cheap. It's very like powdery, that kind of thing. And the shadows just really aren't that great. I mean, they're for a $20 palette. I thought it was going to be okay. It was one of the first palettes that I bought from BH Cosmetics, but it was far from good quality. And then of course I picked up the Zodiac palette and was absolutely blown away. So this palette and the 6th edition 120 color eyeshadow palettes that I do have from BH that I never use, because the pigmentation and the quality of the shadows are severely lacking. I was very surprised at how good their other palettes were compared to these. So their older palettes are nowhere near comparable to the newer palettes. Okay, so as for comparing these are mainly bright colors, but you do have a few neutral type shades in here. This shade here really reminds me of like these two. This one and this one remind me of like this shade and this shade. This shade and this shade, you've got this one that really looks similar to this one, and then this one looks like that. And quite a few of the shades look very similar. Like this shade is very similar to this. This is very similar to this. These two purples are very similar. These shades are very similar. And these pinks are very similar. The yellows in here are actually better than this one. This green is kind of like a cross between these two. And then this shade is kind of like this one as well. But there isn't really anything like that. And I think this black is actually better than this black. So I noticed that there were some very similar shades, and this is much more vibrant than this orange here. So I'm going to be showing you, and I think this one and this one are very similar. I'm going to put the palettes away and then show you the swatches on my arms, and then that way you can see the shades side by side swatched out on my skin tone, and you can make your own judgments as to what you think is better than the other, that kind of thing. And I have the BH Cosmetics on this arm, and then on this one I've got the James Charles palette. So on the swatches, if you look, there's the two blacks. This one is more pigmented right off the bat, but this one here looks like it'll blend a lot easier. This shade here, which is one of the transforming shades, reminds me of like this one here, which is the second one in the James Charles palette. This, like, it's kind of gone down. Let me grab a fresh swatch. This one here, this is like a minty green color. It's the one next to the black shade. It is not like anything in the James Charles palette. There isn't anything on my arm that even resembles this shade, because it has like this really neat like green hue to it. So it's unlike anything else. So as far as the pinks, the skip color is very similar to like this one and this one, but I think it closely matches that one. And the purple shades, these two and this one here are very similar to, like, this one here basically matches the one I've got it next to. And then the shade above it matches the one next to it. So looking at these side by side, I really do think there are quite a few shades that are very, very similar. This yellow is nowhere near, I mean, it's close to this one here, but this is kind of like a lime green colored yellow in the pan. It's kind of like a combination of this one and this one mixed. Let me grab that. Okay, so I grabbed 3 shades. I'm going to put the light one down first, and I'm going to put this one over it. Let me grab the light one again. And I'm going to put the other one over that. Very, very close. It's closer to the first one than it is the second one. So what I did was I mixed this shade and this shade to get this color, and I mixed this shade and this shade to get this one, to try and get that B shade from the James Charles palette. Now the blues, this shade here is very reminiscent of both of these shades. This one here, this one actually has like a shimmer to it, whereas this one's more like a flat matte shade. But if you look, those two right there are very close to these. This shade here is Guac next to Daddy, and I think this shade here is very close to Guac. It's not quite as rich, it's not quite as deep, but it is very similar. And I don't have a shade that resembles Daddy at all. But the Social Blade shade, there's actually like 2 choices. One's a little bit lighter than the other one, but I think this one here from the third row is very similar to Social Blade. The Pinkity Drinkity one matches that one next to that, like those 2 magenta shades. That one is very, very similar. I don't have anything like Artistry. I have something similar to it, but it's darker. This one is more of like a satin shade, whereas Artistry is kind of like a topper shade. And then there's, for this one here, I've got this option or this option that are very similar. So all in all, I think the James Charles palette has a lot more like of the like neutrals and some of the deeper like richer shades, whereas this one is more of like the rainbow, the bold, the vibrant, the fluorescent shades. So if you own the James Charles palette, do you need the BH palette? Probably not. Or if you own the BH palette, do you need the James Charles? Definitely not, because these shadows are so much easier to work with and blend, and the pigmentation on them is buildable if it's not rich enough for you, versus this one here. This one is very difficult to work with. It's not beginner friendly, and there are quite a few very similar shades, as you can tell from my arms. So hopefully this video is helpful and you guys like it. Hopefully this helps you make a decision if you have one palette or the other, or if you don't have either, which ones you're looking for, whether you want more that has like a splash of the bright as well as a bunch of different neutral shades, or more that is mainly a splash of bright. So I guess it's all up to what your preference is and what you're looking for in a shadow, and whether or not you are a beginner or you have more experience with shadows. I would recommend the BH palette to anybody of any skill level, whereas the James Charles palette, you really kind of have to be a makeup artist in order to get some of these shades to work, or you have to work with like wet brushes and then you end up with hard pan. The shadows are very crumbly. Some of them are very patchy when they go on. You really kind of have to pack the shadows on and work with them very, very much so. So I hopefully this was helpful. If you guys like these like swatch comparison videos like this, please let me know. I don't mind doing them. I actually find them intriguing. It shows me things that I have in the very small collection that I do have that are similar or the same to other palettes, as well as finding shades that would be similar or matches, or maybe something is just a hint off on a shade and I'm looking for a particular color. It gives me an idea of what I have that could possibly work over another shadow. So hopefully you like these, and feel free to comment down below, like, and share this with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber, feel free to subscribe. I will see you guys in another video. Hopefully you guys have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye.